Welcome to the Hawksbeat podcast. It's your boy.
Kevin Huerter to get it in. Everyone standing at State Farm Arena. Huerter looks. Plays it into Trey. 2 seconds, one. Trey's floater. Good! With .1! And the Hawks are going to win this game.
I was going to rip his heart out. I'm the best ever. I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been. There's no one can stop me. Lynx is a conqueror. No, I'm Alexander. He's no Alexander. I'm the best ever. There's never been anybody as ruthless. I'm Sonny Liston. I'm Jack Dempsey. There's no one like me. I'm from Nairclaw. There's no one that can match me. My style is impetuous. My defense is impregnable. And I'm just ferocious. I want your heart. I want to eat his children. Praise be to Allah.
You are now listening to the Hawksbeat podcast with your host, Eda.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, what is up? What is up? What is up? Hello on a beautiful Wednesday afternoon. Game day, right? Game day. The Atlanta Hawks are in the Eastern Conference Finals. And I promised you guys on the last podcast that I would come and try to do a preview pod. So here we are in the middle of the day. And I just wanted to go over just a few things real quick, man. We're not going to be long today. And just kind of preview the Hawks and Bucks series, just kind of look at some of the numbers, kind of get your feedback, how you're feeling going into this series. So if you're a Hawks fan, if you're a Bucks fan, welcome. You know what I'm saying? We don't discriminate. How are you feeling going into this series? Two teams that a lot of folks didn't really have in the Eastern Conference Finals, a 3rd seed and a 5 seed, but nevertheless, we are here. First things first, man. Don't forget to check out the Hawksbeat. Follow us on Twitter at Hawksbeat. We're always appreciative of retweets and reshares and all that jazz. So go by the podcast, check it out, rate, review, and subscribe to the pod, and give us a 5-star rating to help us get our weight up in the podcast community. But listen, let's jump right into this, guys. Game time tonight, I believe tip is at 8:30. Nate McMillan is scheduled to have his availability at 7 p.m. So hopefully there we'll find out what kind of starting lineups he's going to go with tonight and see it, because there's some injury questions that we have, right? Some injury questions. And, so we'll probably get that tonight around 7. But game tips off tonight around 8:30. And in Milwaukee, and we're going to get down to battle, man. Hopefully it will be as good a series as the Western Conference Finals, man. That thing has gotten off to a really good start, but hopefully we'll have a good long series between the Hawks and the Bucks. First things first, man, I wanted to go over some injury news from the Hawks, side of the ball. Kevin Huerter is listed as probable. He had a little bit of ankle soreness, nothing to really worry about there. He's going to play for the most part, but he's one noticeable thing about the Hawks injury report is that Trae Young is no longer on the report. So I guess the shoulder is feeling fine, which is a good sign. And we'll probably talk about it during the series, but no let up for Trae. So he goes from taking on Ben Simmons and Thibault to the Holiday kid who was just a dog of a defender. So I'm sure that's going to be a storyline during the series as well. Bogi and Cam are both listed as questionable. Now, Cam, his status got upgraded to questionable within the past few days. And Bogi, we all know that he had been struggling with that knee. Now, and of course, Hunter and Goodwin are going to be out with their issues. Hunter, of course, getting the right knee meniscus surgery. I heard the surgery went well, so he's on the road to rehab. And Goodwin is out as well on the report. So that's kind of a look at the storylines. But I want to start kind of in the middle with those injuries, right? Bogi and Cam. I'll start with Bogi first. That knee is definitely not where it needs to be. And I think that it's going to be interesting to see how Nate navigates Bogi's injury, because he didn't really shoot the ball well last game. You could tell it was bothering him. You was tell he was just kind of thugging it out, But the thing about it, when Bogi is on the floor, you still have to account for him, whether he can move or whether he can't move, because the brother can shoot. Like he can shoot, So, I mean, it's really up to the player. It's going to be up to the coaching staff to see what can they get out of him. If they put him on a minutes restriction, if they let him rest a game or two, I'm not sure what they're going to do. I mean, I don't have the answers, but that is going to be something Nate and his staff are going to have to watch and going to have to monitor, because Bogi has been a big part of the Hawks' success. Like all season, he's been a huge part of the Hawks' success. So we're going to be watching and seeing how they navigate with Bogi, if he's going to start, if he's not going to start, what the deal is. So we'll see. Cam Reddish, again, got upgraded to questionable. Now, I said in my last podcast, somebody asked me, do I think that we'll see Cam Reddish in this series? I'm still likely to lean no, but again, I'm not necessarily the coach, and I say no for several reasons. Yes, Bogi might be out, and there may be minutes there. I still hold fast to, I don't believe that you can have a guy who's been out for 4 months just come in and kind of leapfrog other guys who have been playing ahead of him. Coaches traditionally don't do that, And the last time we saw Cam, it was 4 months ago. So you have to ask yourself, what kind of service are you doing to him if you just throw him out there in the Eastern Conference Finals and tell him, hey, look, go guard Chris Middleton, because I imagine if Cam does play, in the likelihood that he does get into the game, I imagine that, of course, he'll be on a minutes restriction. But I'm just not sure of playing him if that's the best thing. Now, this is just me if I'm the coach, and I'm kind of thinking like from a coach's perspective, do you just kind of throw him in that type of fire? We do know in the beginning of the season, Cam was struggling offensively. He was kind of struggling offensively, and I know we got a new coach and a new system, but he was working on some things. So I don't know if throwing him out there is the best thing for Cam. Could it be a situation where they just, hey, man, let me see what you got for 5 or 10 minutes? That could be a situation. I don't know. But for me personally, I would kind of err on the side of just maybe letting him rest and just seeing how that thing goes, right? We're seeing how that thing goes. I know a lot of people would love to see Cam. A lot of people root for Cam to be out there. And ultimately, it's going to be up to Nate McMillan. We'll see again during coach's availability before the game. Coach doesn't really like to speak on injuries that much before the game. So if possible, maybe one of the brave journalists would ask him about Cam and the possibility. But traditionally, coaches don't. They keep those cards close to the vest on whether a guy is gonna play or whether he's not gonna play. So the best we got right now is that he's questionable and that Bogi's questionable. So we'll just have to see. A big thing is this, though. If Bogi can't go, what does your starting five look like, right? So if you're in the chat, hit me up. Tell me who you would start if Bogi, if the situation is where he has to sit out, if that knee is he just can't go, who do you plug in? Do you plug in Solo? Do you plug in Gallo? What do you do with the five? To me, I think it's got to be one of those two guys. And this is just me just thinking. Milwaukee is a big, long team, right? And so I'm thinking that it will be tough. To be honest with you, it'll be tough even if you run the lineup that you've been running and you have Huerter at like the 3, and then you have, Collins and Capella as your bigs. You're still going to run into matchup problems because the things that Milwaukee does, the type of players that they have, they're big. They're long. You got Middleton, who can. He's just a phenomenal player, and it's hard to find a guy to match up with you. So I've done this. So I want to look at it from the standpoint, and let's just say, I'll do both situations. So let's assume Bogi can't go. If your starting lineup is Solo, you're going to look like this. You're going to look like Trey and Huerter in the backcourt. Front line of Solo, Collins, and Capella, right? So I'm thinking of the matchups, right? And I think the matchups are going to be very important. You look at the two bigs for Milwaukee. You look at Giannis and you look at Lopez. I'm thinking that if you're the Hawks, you have to line up. And traditionally, knowing how teams play and how teams match up, very rarely are you going to get just one guy on the next guy like all game. You typically don't do that. With a guy like Giannis, you're going to throw many faces at him. You're going to throw many faces at him, and whatever guy has the hot hand, whatever guy can lock him up, that's the guy you're going to go with. Off the top, I think that you're going to do this. I think that with Giannis and Lopez, I think you're going to see a match, a tag team kind of Capella and John Collins. How that goes, I'm not sure, because Collins and Capella can both be foul prone, right? So you don't want a situation where John Collins is out on the wing trying to guard Giannis, and he's driving to the hole. Then you got John Collins picking up fouls, and you don't want Clint Capella picking up those fouls. So I think between the two of them, you got to have kind of a tag team, Let them see Collins a little bit. Let them see Capella a little bit. Those guys are long. Those guys can, they can move pretty good laterally. And so I think that you'll see kind of a mix between the JC and Capella. So when you look at Milwaukee, you got Giannis and Lopez. I think JC and Capella will kind of switch off between those two. I think for Middleton is kind of their guy. You obviously can't throw Trey on Middleton. you just can't do that, right? I'm thinking if you throw Huerter on Middleton, it wouldn't be bad, but it will still kind of be a little barbecue chicken moments. I think you got to throw Solo at Middleton if that's what you do. If Solo starts, I think he gets first crack at Middleton. Again, he's not going to be on him the whole game, but Solo's a tough guy. He's a physical guy. Maybe he gets in his chest, makes Middleton, settles for a whole bunch of jumpers, and I think that's the matchup you might go with. If that's the case, you only got Holiday and Tucker left. So then obviously you're going to put Huerter on Holiday, which isn't too bad of a matchup because Holiday is not going to be one of your primary scorers for Milwaukee. And then the leftovers, you always give it to Trey. I mean, that's just how it is. The fifth guy, the Tucker, you're going to give him to Trey because Tucker, all he's going to do is just sit in that corner and wait for the open three. So, again, if Bogi is out and if you start Solo, I think the matchup is this. Trey on Tucker, Huerter on Holiday, Solo on Middleton, JC on Lopez or Giannis, Capella on Lopez or Collins. I think that's what you do if you go with the lineup of Solo if Bogi can go. And again, this is assuming Bogi can't go because he's kind of questionable. And so it doesn't look good, man. It doesn't look good for him, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. If they can, and I hear, and I was listening to, what podcast was I listening to? Locked On Hawks. My guy Brad Rowland, good friend of the show, man. Brad does great work. One of the top tier Hawks podcasts out there. Y'all make sure y'all check out my guy. They were talking about the idea of Gallo starting, and while I like the length and I like having a big up there as a three, Gallo is definitely not what he used to be, but I wouldn't hate it. Like, I wouldn't hate it if they did that, right? So if you go to Gallo, you definitely have a bigger type of a bigger guy out there, makes matchup problems. I think if you run Gallo out there, I think it makes it harder for the Bucks to match up with the Hawks because who are you going to throw at Gallo? If you got a three, you can throw Tucker out there, but Gallo's a tough guy. He's a tough guy. He's a tough caller, especially if he's hitting a shot. So I think you do the same thing as far as the matchups. You got to it'll be a little bit different though because you can't put the three on the one. So I think you would go Trey on Holiday, Huerter on Middleton, Gallo on Tucker, JC and Capella again on the two bigs. So that's why I think the matchups will go. But it's going to be very interesting to see how the matchups are going to go. Currently, the Hawks are, I think, 7-point underdogs going into the game, which is kind of expected. Nobody really expected the Hawks to be here. And I think that's kind of the stilo, right? That's kind of the stilo. You're not supposed to beat the 4th seed. The Knicks will probably win, then the Hawks win that. Then you go up in Philly. Oh, you're not going to beat Philly. Then, you handle business there. So I would be very cautious to just easily say, hey, the Milwaukee Bucks are the better team. They're the 3 seed. It's a done deal. I haven't seen anybody in the media pick the Hawks. I haven't seen anybody in the media pick the Hawks. So I'm not going to give a prediction right now. I might not even give a prediction, but I will say this. This ain't going to be no runaway. It's not going to be no runaway. Let me run to the chat real quick, see what you guys are saying, checking in. Al Bundy Jr., what up? He said, Cam going to get Skylar Mays minutes. Shout out to Skylar Mays, man. And I'll tell you what, man, even though he hasn't been having many minutes, Skylar Mays has been a good story for the Hawks, a good second-round pick. And I like what Travis did in selecting Skylar Mays, man. So shout out to Skylar Mays. Talford 100 checking us out on Twitter and Periscope. He says Capella, Collins, Snell, Huerter, and Trey. Starting Snell. Okay, I can see that. The only thing is this. Snell hasn't been the guy that he was in the middle of the season for about a month and a half now, right? Like, I don't know, ever since he had that last tweak, that last injury, he hasn't shot the ball and he hasn't been as dynamic as he was toward the middle of the season where he just was not missing anything. So, I don't know. I'm not the coach. I'm not going to say you're crazy. I don't think it would be, I would personally go with either Solo or Gallo, but Snell, if he's right, throw him out there. If he's right, throw him out there. One issue I did want to go over towards the end as far as the X factor, right? So the X factors are always kind of that thing that nobody thinks about or so I did a little digging, right? And I come up with 2 X factors in this series. 3-point shooting and 4th quarter execution, right? So follow me because I'm going to go a little nerd, right? I'm going to hit you with a couple of stats and then we're going to put this thing in a bow and go to bed, right? 3-point shooting. One thing that is that Coach Bud's teams always do is they shoot a ton of threes. I remember covering the Hawks when Coach Bud was here, and they shot a ton of threes. And I think one game I asked him, I was like, you got to be delicate when you ask these questions, right? Because coaches, they have these egos, and they don't like anybody to question their style. And I think one game I asked him about, do you subscribe to the analytics, and what do you think of the 3-point shots that you make as opposed to the 3-point shots you take? In other words, I wanted to ask, if you're not making all these daggone threes, why are you taking all these threes, right? I didn't quite ask him that, but I kind of jumped around, and he gave me some coach speak, and he didn't really answer my question. But he's in Milwaukee, and he's doing the exact same thing. He's not hitting threes at a high clip. Currently, out of the 16 playoff teams, and I'm looking at it in the totality, right? I'm looking at everything in the totality. Out of the 16 teams, the Milwaukee Bucks are shooting 31%, which is 14 out of 16. You're at the bottom. Putting everything together, you're at the bottom of 3-point percentage, right? And so the idea is, if you're at the bottom of the 3-point percentage, you probably shouldn't be near the top with attempts. Not the case, because that's how Bud Ball is. They shoot a ton of threes. So they're at the bottom as far as makes, but they're 6th. They're 6th in attempts. They attempt 36 3-pointers a game. That's 6, and that's putting the whole totality, all 16 playoff teams during the playoffs. They are 6 as far as the number of attempts. So they're shooting 31%. So conversely, you look at the Hawks. The Hawks are 10 out of 16, which is kind of in the middle, a little bit below the middle. They're shooting 34%. and they're 10th in attempts. So you're 10th in makes, you're 10th in attempts. That's a little bit more balanced, right? You're shooting about 32 threes a game, which is still crazy because I'm kind of old school. I remember a day when you didn't shoot all these threes, but it's whatever, right? And so the Hawks are a little bit more balanced when it comes to three-point shooting, right? Last round, the Hawks, they did not shoot the three ball well, but you know what they did do? They shot it better than the Bucks from the three-point range. Last round, they shot 33%. The Bucks, they shot 30% from the three. Why is that important? Because typically the way the Bucks play basketball, if you have a 10, 15, 20-point lead, what are they going to do? Are they going to eat up clock, work it into the middle, get shots inside the paint? No. They're going to shoot threes. They're going to shoot threes. And that lead could either go from 15 to 30 or it can go from 15 to 1 really quick. Really quick. Right. And I'm not saying it's going to be, it is what it is. I'm telling you about the style of how the Milwaukee Bucks play. They shoot a ton of threes. They shoot a lot of jumpers. And so the Hawks will never be out of this series. They will always have a chance to erase any lead that the Bucks get up on. I'm telling you. Same thing that happened in Brooklyn, like how these teams blowing 18 and 20-point leads. It's because when they get up, they just yoke up all these threes, and it gives the other team a way to get back into the game. So I think that's important, the three-point shooting. Lastly, fourth quarter execution. Nate McMillan has turned this Hawks team into one of the better fourth quarter teams in the league. Yeah, I said it. They're one of the better fourth quarter teams in the league. So he took their weakness and made it one of their strengths. So when you look at the fourth quarter, if it's close and it's a tight game, did you see that game with Milwaukee in Brooklyn? How Milwaukee was tight. They won, but they were tight in that fourth quarter. I don't see that when I see the Hawks play in the fourth quarter. They seem poised. They seem relaxed. Why? Because Nate has been preaching that since March about fourth quarter execution. I'm going to give you a few numbers, and then we're going to get up out of here. Fourth quarter shooting, the Hawks have been better than the Bucks. 26 points a quarter to 23 points a quarter. They've been the better shooting team. 44% to 41%. Hawks to Milwaukee. They've been the better three-point shooting team. 35% to 25%. Yes, the Milwaukee Bucks have shot 25% from three in the fourth quarter. So, it is what it is. I'm not going to give a prediction right now because, predictions are what are they for? Predictions, what are they for, right? But I'm just saying this. Everybody that's so quick and so easy to say, oh, it's going to be Bucks are going to do what they got to do. Okay. And that may well happen. But look at the numbers. Look at the storylines. The Hawks have more than a puncher's chance to take care of business against the Milwaukee Bucks. So that's just a little preview. We'll be doing podcasts, of course, throughout the show. Throughout the series. And just make sure y'all follow Hawksbeat on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all the social media platforms. That's where we are, man. Y'all know how to get at us. But I think that's about it for the preview show, man. I'm in and out in 25 minutes, kind of like I said. So we'll see you guys when we see you. Peace and love. Thanks for checking us out. And like we always say, man, God is good all the time, and all the time God is good. So if you don't know him, you need to find him and show him love, because that's all when you LOBE love. We out. Peace.
Kevin Huerter to get it in. Everyone standing at State Farm Arena. Huerter looks. Plays it into Trey. 2 seconds, one. Trey's floater. Good! With .1! And the Hawks are going to win this game.
I was going to rip his heart out. I'm the best ever. I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been. There's no one can stop me. Lynx is a conqueror. No, I'm Alexander. He's no Alexander. I'm the best ever. There's never been anybody as ruthless. I'm Sonny Liston. I'm Jack Dempsey. There's no one like me. I'm from Nairclaw. There's no one that can match me. My style is impetuous. My defense is impregnable. And I'm just ferocious. I want your heart. I want to eat his children. Praise be to Allah.
You are now listening to the Hawksbeat podcast with your host, Ida